Hi, it's Bruce. Today's video is about what happens when people find out that you're a beekeeper. Okay, a couple of things will happen when people find out you're a beekeeper. One is the main thing with me, I think, is people will contact me and say, "Oh, I've got a bee swarm. There's a swarm of bees. It's up in a birdhouse in a tree on my property." That happens often. That happens often. And I got to say, these days, I don't like to climb ladders so much anymore. So I'll probably direct them over to one of the younger members of our bee club who will usually remove those bees for them. And it's great. There's a great network of people in my club who will do that. The other thing is if anybody in your neighborhood gets stung, it's your bee that did it. Even if it wasn't a bee, it's still your bee. The other day I had somebody call me and say, "Oh, I got bees in a tree and they're stinging me." Went over there. No, it wasn't bees. It was yellow jackets. They were actually underground in the roots of the tree. Um, no honeybees there. Weren't my bees. But that happens. All my neighbors know that I'm a beekeeper. They know for a couple of ways. You know, if you look just right from the road, you can see some of the hives. But even if not, when I have a lot of honey, I'll put a sign out on the road, and people will text me and they'll order honey. So a good deal of my neighbors have bought honey from me. And they know, and a lot of them are real interested in the bees, and a lot of them I'll bring them back here and show them the hives a little bit. It's good. It's good stuff. Yesterday, a young lady who's in my neighborhood contacted me. Bees had moved into a propane tank cover enclosure, I guess. So their house, they used propane gas for cooking, and the bees had actually found a rusted hole in the cover of the propane. I keep saying a propane tank enclosure. I guess the propane tank is buried underground, and the it had a cover. So she'd had the gas company come out to fill the tank, and found that bees had moved in there. And so the propane company said, "Oh, we can't touch it." So they called me. First thing they asked, "Do you think these are your bees?" They probably are. My bees will swarm. I have swarm traps and I try and manage them, but still, they'll get away. Um, there's also a couple other beekeepers in the neighborhood, and there's also a heck of a lot of wild bees here in this part of Florida. You know, um, we say, there's a lot of commercial beekeepers that will drive around all year pollinating the bees' crops. Pollinating the crops. They'll go to California for almonds, and they'll go and get blueberries, and they'll hit a lot of different states. But a whole lot of them will come back here to Florida, especially South Florida, to winter. Because, okay, so the first big pollination contract of the year is the almond contract, and it's financially worth it to take your bees to the almonds. I'm not willing to do it, but a lot of people do. But to when you go to pollinate, there'll be somebody who will inspect your bees. And if you are coming with a hive of bees that is not very strong, you get paid less money. Almonds is a big deal. I believe it takes like 2 beehives per acre to pollinate those almonds. And without the bees' pollination, you don't get almond nuts. So it's a big deal. So you want to go with the strongest colony possible. Well, here in Florida, they'll come back in fall. They'll catch the Brazilian pepper crop, which, around September, October is our biggest honey crop of the year, typically in this area. And their bees, they'll have nice big fat colonies with our mild winter. So they'll be able to present real healthy, strong colonies and get paid the most. So it makes sense. But a byproduct of the commercial beekeepers that are here in Florida is we get a heck of a lot of wild swarms, that are out in hollow trees, out in the woods, and they're all over the place. In this part of Florida, you put up a swarm trap, it's pretty easy to catch a swarm of bees. Okay, back to my story. So I'm doing this as a voiceover because the audio wasn't very good in this video, but I got out my bee vac. Now I gotta say, that bee vac is still going strong. If you're interested in it, I did a video a couple of years ago about how to build it. Super simple to build, it's cheap. I recommend you do that, especially if you're frugal like me. Not to say cheap Charlie, but anyway, I used my bee vac and I sucked up the bees. I went very methodically, and unfortunately, I did not spot the queen. Now, I gotta say, my eyesight is not what it once was. And when you're vacuuming, I like to do it the way I show here. I'll vacuum the face of a comb, I'll cut that comb free, I'll turn it over, I'll vacuum off the other side, then I'll go rubber band it. Most of the bees will just stand there and let you suck them up in the vacuum, but the queen, usually she runs and hides. And if you cut this comb and take it away, she'll be on the next one. And then by the time you get to the next one, she'll be on the last one. So by the time you get to the last of them, a lot of times, if she's not on that last comb, she'll be running around, on the, running around wherever there's a big cluster of bees. I didn't spot her, but those bees were fanning. Those bees seemed like there was the queen in the box. So what I did was I sucked up bees in the bee vacuum. I rubber banded 3 frames of brood comb into a 5-frame nuke box, right? And there was a lot of eggs. There was a lot of brood on those 3 combs. And I put those in the box. Several, the nurse bees were attracted to that. They ran over there. And then I took the bees from the vacuum and I dumped them into the box, right? And I closed the lid and I set the entrance disc on the front of the nuke box to just a very small opening, okay? And I let them sit, and I didn't film this part, but after watching them for a while, they were settling down, and most of them were going in and out of that box, okay? That was pretty good. So I went back last night after dark, and I grabbed those bees, and like I said, I didn't film it, but I set them here. I set them here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed them because there's not much food in there right now. And so I'm going to change the lid because that lid doesn't have a hole, and then I'll feed them. I'll show you that. Okay, so here is the bees that I took in when I brought them in last night. I put them on the stand right here. I set the entrance disc to queen excluder mode, and so hopefully that'll keep them here. I do have a worry. The house where I brought these bees from is only 150 yards, maybe 200 yards away from us, not very far. But they have some brood comb in here, and if the queen sticks, hopefully they'll stick too. So this type of lid, I should repaint this guy, but I cut the hole this size here, and I put a feeder on it. So let's see how it looks inside real quick. I'm just going to be quick about this though. Hello, ladies. Okay, drop the bees inside. Not a whole lot of bees here. I'm hoping that they'll come back. The danger is being as close as they are to that neighbor, the danger is that they may very well decide to go back over there. I'll call her in a little bit and see. So this is just 1-to-1 sugar water. And because there's not a lot of food in here, that'll give them something to eat, something to do. And with the small entrance, even though there's a small number of bees here, I mean, it's not, we're just starting to go into the dearth since the Brazilian pepper finished. But most all the beehives here have got quite a bit of honey from them. I'll be harvesting in just a few days. I should have harvested it a little bit earlier. I didn't because I had to arrange some people to come help me, my daughter and some other folks. So that's why it worked out the way it did. But anyway, these bees are set. I'll put this back into my stored equipment here. And if they make it, it's going to be real nice. But hopefully the queen's confined in here. I'm not going to mess with them much because, I mean, it's traumatic. You know, Hurricane Bruce came in and tore down their house, right? Yeah, so, you know, they've been through a lot. And now they've got food. They've got, hopefully their queen is inside and she made it through healthy. I hope I didn't roll her or anything. But I'm not going to touch them. I'm not going to mess with them for maybe 2 weeks, something like that. Then I'll go in and take a look at them, see how they're doing. All right. So what happens when people find out you're a beekeeper? Well, I think there's 3 things really. Number 1 is if anybody gets stung by any critter, whether it's a bee, a hornet, or whatever, they'll blame you. It's your fault. Your bee stung me. Your bee stung my dog. Number 2, people will call you and tell you that they have bees, they have a problem, they want you to come by. But number 3, when they find out you're a beekeeper, people talk to you. You know, you don't know your neighbors so well usually these days, but my neighbors know I'm a beekeeper and they talk to me about it. They're interested. They want to hear stories. They want to see stuff. They love it. But anyway, I really appreciate you sticking to the end. Now, I am trying to reestablish my beekeeping channel. And so what you could do for me that would really help me out is to do a like, a comment, a share on my video. That really makes a big difference for me. And let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. Let me know how I'm doing, what you think. If I'm totally wrong, just let me know. And if there's something you want me to do beekeeping wise, if it's something you want to see, some kind of question, ask me. I'm around. Right. Well, this is Bruce. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you sticking to the end. I will see you the next time.